We've had a lot of red on our charts over the past few days, and it's not just limited to cryptos. We're seeing the same thing across many asset classes, across the equity space, energy, commodities, pretty much anything you can think of. We're looking lower, even bonds. The only thing that seems to be going up is VIX or volatility, but there are other reasons why I may be a little bit concerned about the red alternate pattern becoming more likely in the crypto space. And we've definitely broken a few supports. So we're going to go over why I think so and what to expect over the next few days if we are going to see some follow through to the downside. This is Bitcoin up close, the 1 hour linear chart. And we had 3 waves up. And in our last several updates, I have been pointing out that we need to see a relatively shallow 4th wave and a 5th wave up. And then we start to overlap our 1st wave with this 4th wave down. And that is the same story in pretty much all of our cryptos. This is Ethereum. And we'll go over several of the other the altcoins later on. But this would most likely indicate that we're in some kind of a leading diagonal, which is a believable pattern to be in because it looks like the equities, the Dow Jones, may be in a similar setup right now. When we look at this thing, this is the Dow up close, 15 minutes as well. And we clearly have 3 waves up. We're probably still in 4th wave territory. We haven't quite gotten to the point. Actually, we've come very close to overlapping the 1st wave. So this looks like it would be best identified as a leading diagonal. However, if it is to maintain that stance, we will need to see a sharp reversal very quickly. I've been looking for that. And unfortunately, we've gone so deep that, well, now it's either now or never. In addition to that, this is Bitcoin. We also have what looks to be an impulsive setup to the downside. So Ethereum has the same thing. I'm going to start with Bitcoin. Bitcoin had its top on March 28th, and this can easily be counted as a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, possibly with an extended 5th wave. And when we put our Fibonacci extension tool onto this thing, it does fit the proportions pretty well. I would definitely say that the 5th wave extended a bit lower than it should have based on that. Now, if we keep dropping directly down, we have an invalidation line below here. If we see that, that could mean we are going to get that lower low relatively quickly. However, I don't expect that to happen right away. I'd expect to see a wave 2 bounce. So what I'm interpreting this as is possibly a 1st wave down for further downside. And if we have a 1st wave down, I'd expect to see a relatively deep 2nd wave bounce. It'd be a corrective bounce. And well, if we exceed that high that we hit on March 28th, that would be a good sign that we've invalidated the immediate downside setup. In Ethereum, however, things look a little different, in which we had a secondary higher high. We had a big retrace here. So the way I've been interpreting this is that this is an A wave, that's a B wave bounce, and then we have that impulsive form for what I would be calling the C wave. And C waves are generally impulsive. So this doesn't look as dangerous and it hasn't retraced as deeply. And well, we've gone about as deep as we can. If this is really a 4th wave, I really wouldn't want to see us go any lower. You can see how from the channel trend lines, we've basically hit the lower trend channel line in Ethereum specifically. Bitcoin Cash looks a bit scarier. We're getting very close to the invalidation mark at $260. Ethereum Classic, after its very impressive rallying, we're not as close to invalidation in it, but it too has kind of an ominous setup to the downside. Could interpret this as an A, B, and a C, possibly. Litecoin getting dangerously close again to invalidation. Doge, we got some space down below. And Dash, usually I like to use this as my initial indicator of sentiment. And this kind of falls along with Ethereum as well, where one could interpret this entire thing as a 4th wave because, well, we have a peak here. Could be an A wave down, B wave bounce, and a C wave completing at the moment. And we do have a divergence. You can see that with the MACD, the MACD. So that would be a good sign for Dash. We're not seeing the same story in Ethereum, although it's trying to develop that kind of a divergence. So we're going to see what happens there. DOT, similar setup with Dash. So Polkadot, where you could still convincingly call this an ABC down, with this latest leg down being an impulse wave down. Stellar Lumens looks more like Bitcoin, in which could count as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The other interpretation is that this is an A, B wave, and this is a 5 wave impulse. That is nearing completion. You also see that divergence here, in which, again, we have a lower price, and we didn't get as stretched in our MACD count. And finally, you have your EOS, same kind of thing as Stellar Lumens. You see a divergence developing. So fingers crossed, but you can't fight the market. Polygon, you see a divergence. And finally, Shiba Inu, getting very close to invalidation. So we need to see this thing turn around ASAP if we have any chance of preserving this rally. Back to the Dow. we do have a divergence in place. So there is a chance we get a slightly lower low, maybe to the bottom of this box, which would fall right around 34,000, something like that. And you can see I actually had this little percent decline here. I was expecting a C wave to take us down to about where we are. So this isn't too ominous of a sign in the equity space. So, and the reason I bring it up is because while you can't always trust correlations in Elliott wave theory, we've seen quite some correlation between the equities and cryptos. The inflection points have largely been coincidental. Now, shifting to our big picture chart, this is looking pretty spectacular. I was celebrating that we broke the triangle, which is good. Triangle's broken, it's dead. But this could easily be interpreted as an A, B, and maybe a C wave. C waves aren't usually zigzag, so it could be a double zigzag. So I would say it's about 50-50. If we don't manage to turn right around real quick, we got that box below us, and that would take us to possibly 30,000 or lower, maybe as low as the 24,000 range. So those numbers sound pretty scary. But if we're going to see that, I'd expect to see a bit more of a wave 2 bounce before we fall directly down. This is, again, the daily logarithmic chart. This is Ethereum. Same story. It doesn't look as problematic. It still looks like it could easily be a leading diagonal with A, B, and a C wave up. And this could possibly be actually a fourth wave. If this is a 1, 2, 3 with a 4 coming, we could actually go a little lower without invalidating such a setup. And of course, the other cryptos we already went over on the lower, the smaller term picture. They're getting much closer to invalidation. And we got our boxes below where we could drop if we do have that Bitcoin Cash. Could be 185 or lower. If we break support at 260 in Ethereum Classic, $14 or so. If we break $21 support, Litecoin could take us down to 76.62 or lower. If we break our support at 91.32, Doge, we actually almost hit our box. So we could go down to 7.6 cents if we do break our low that we hit on February 24th. Dash, we have our low sitting at right now $78. Could take us down to that $61 mark if we do break support. Polkadot, similar story. There's no clear support here, but breaking our low of $14-ish could take us down to the $10 mark there. Chainlink, looking ominous as well. 1151 is our low, so we could get ourselves looking close to the below $10 box. Solana, we never had a clear support, but breaking support could get us down to $58. Stellar Lumens, same thing. It does look like a corrective up so far. That could change. If we break 16 cents, that could get us to the 10-cent mark or lower. And EOS, remember that black hole? While I wouldn't expect us to go all the way down there, we could break down to the bottom of this purple box, maybe lower, assuming that we break whatever our low was, which is sitting at about $1.87. If that happens, 171 would be the next most reasonable target. Possibly we could peak a little lower. Polygon, got that box below. Same thing, we need to break. There's no clear arbitrary, it's a very arbitrary line in the sand. 89 cents would be about where I'd expect us to hit, maybe into that box below the 70 cent range. And finally, Shiba Inu, where could we end up? Well, we didn't quite get the depth initially. So if we take a 1-to-1 of this, or we presume we have an expanding diagonal to finish up our C wave, we could get down to here. So that's about, what is that, 0.0000111, or about from where we are right now. It could be a 50% pullback from the present time. So I don't want to give a sense of total doom and gloom, but just to be ready, if you are planning to hold through the correction, well, commit to it. If you do want to take some chips off the table, I would look for, again, a bounce over the next few days. I may consider that myself, depending on how this bounce looks. If we see an ABC up, clear zigzag up, that would be a possibly what we call a gentleman's exit. We were looking for such an opportunity back in December and January. Didn't quite get it, but then we've rallied quite a bit since. So again, ABC up could be an initial indication that we're about to pull back. The safest way to get out if you are planning to take some chips off the table would probably be to wait for this to happen. And then we break lower than we already have hit today. If we don't get a bounce at all, I will be looking to take some chips off the table if we do start invalidating. So if we break those supports that I just listed for all those different coins, I'm not sure exactly how much I'll take off the table, but there's a chance I might take 50% or so off the table. So I'm going to be posting updates in the community posts, and I'll have plenty more coming our way. So don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss those. And if you enjoyed my video, don't forget to give me a like. We're going to see what happens next few days. It's going to be an exciting inflection point. See if the bulls can pull this out. Until next time, thank you for watching and happy trading.